nope, there's no slowing down here. But it's been a ride for sure. We wrote it like this time last year, and I'd posted like an acoustic version of me playing it because I liked it, and I figured my Georgia people would think it was funny. But I had already recorded my EP this time last year, so that was coming out in July, and we just didn't have any plans for it. So the only reason we released it was because Spotify gave us an opportunity where I needed to release like an original song that wasn't out yet, and the timing happened to be football season. So I was like, I've got this like football kind of love song, so we should just do that. And yeah, so that definitely, I didn't release it being like, this is the one. Well, it was definitely getting a lot of attention on TikTok, and I noticed that people were making a trend out of it that had nothing to do with football. It was more just about like people's love story, which I thought was interesting. But even like in the first 5 days, it had 1 million streams, and that my numbers weren't like that on any of my other stuff. So I think then I was like, okay, wait, people really like this one. That was amazing. I called my mom immediately after that happened, and I was just freaking out because I really didn't expect to win, and it was an honor to even be nominated. So I think I remember being like, did I even speak English as soon as I got backstage? Because I'm like, I think I just blacked out. So, I mean, it's felt really easy. I released an EP last summer so that I could tour, and then after last summer, I toured on 6 different tours as an opener. I just kept writing, and with Tennessee Orange being a single after the EP, and now, I've dropped a few singles before the album comes out, it just feels natural, and everything is building, which is great. Yeah, the songs I wrote over the past year and a half, so. I think Lucky is just fun. To me, that stuck out the most. We messed around with maybe like Georgia Girl or maybe self-titled or something, but I was just so excited when we wrote Lucky because it was not like anything else I had ever written, and as soon as I heard the title Lucky and we had the song, I immediately thought of like two-stepping in a casino, and just like I'm involved with a lot of the creative parts of everything that I do, so that just excited me the most, and so I think that's why I picked Lucky, but it was so different than anything else I had, so. Really, it was just my manager putting me in rooms with people that she thought I would mesh well with. Some of the songs, like Ben Williams has, I think, 7 of the songs on Lucky, and he was my first co-write in Nashville, so it's cool that like I have guys like him who I've like grown with since the beginning, but then I also got to write with like legendary writers like Laura McKenna, Luke Laird, Rodney, it's all kinds of different writers, and like even Jordan Fletcher and Ian Kristian, that was the first time I'd ever met them. We wrote sad songs for sad people. The first time I met Lori, Luke, and Rodney, we wrote Kansas Anymore. The first time I met Connor Matthews was Why Johnny, so a lot of these writes were just like the first time I had met them. Jessie Joe, the first time I met her, we wrote Girl in the Mirror, so it's cool to be able to write with so many different people, but a lot of it was just like, trying to get me in rooms with new people, and just magic happened, I guess. So I write based on personal experiences, so I usually trauma down onto the writers, and I kind of just like tell them what's going on in my life, and I usually bring the idea, not always, but usually I know what I want to write, and they help me make my idea a lot better. So Girl in the Mirror was written with Matt Jenkins and Jessie Joe, and that was the first time we ever wrote together. And me and Jessie Joe just really clicked immediately, and we were like, wait, we could be related. We are so similar. And we talked for like 3 hours about past relationships and just what was going on in our lives. And we wrote the song in 30 minutes after talking for 3 hours. But once we were talking, I had like the Girl in the Mirror title. And once we were talking, I was like, wait, she loves the boy more than she loves the girl in the mirror. And it was kind of just like, it's not about one specific relationship, but it's more like what we find ourselves doing in like relationships when we get into them. And we talked about how as a strong woman, it's really hard to admit that like you've kind of lost yourself trying to make it work with a guy that you shouldn't be trying to make it work with. I think Girl in the Mirror has the most important message on the record, and it's definitely the most vulnerable. The last line where it says you can't love the boy more than you love the girl in the mirror, because I think that's kind of like what we were talking about, and that like switch in the lyric just kind of came naturally, because we were like, okay, we've said all this, but like for what, you know? And then like the for what was at the end, where it's like why it didn't work. Well, it's perfectly clear. Like, and so I think it's like makes me feel empowered, and I know it's based on the messages that I've received already. It's helping other people, so I'm glad it's out. I feel like it's so relatable. It's like uncomfortably relatable, where it's like, oh gosh. So Connor Matthews, I wrote that with him, and it was his idea, but he brought in Why Johnny, the title, but was like, why Johnny did you set the bar so high? Because I feel like most people, when they're writing about Johnny and June, it's like the iconic love story that everyone looks up to, which they did have. But I was like totally down to write about Johnny and June, but as far as the timeline of the relationship goes, I don't really know much about them, so like let's just do a brief, let's do brief research here. I found out that when they met backstage at the Opry, they were married to 2 different people, so immediately I was like, that's a little messy, I would say. And Johnny Cash struggled with alcohol abuse, substance abuse, and women loved him. And this song is kind of to June, like, how did you know to stick it out with him through all that? Because eventually he was writing her love letters every day, so writing her poems and all the things, and they were the iconic love story, but they definitely didn't just like meet and fall in love and everything was perfect and rainbows and butterflies, So the song is really just asking June for advice, and it's one of my favorites. I think it just happens because I think my songs it's almost like when you hear them, it's like that was clearly written about, so I didn't just like dream that up, and I think because they are really written about people, so it doesn't really bother me that people try to figure out who my songs are about, really. But I think it's funny because sometimes people think that maybe a lot of my songs are about one person, and it's like, no, I date the same guy, copy and pasted. It's a problem. So they're definitely not all about one guy. Several. I have a long list of bad ex-boyfriends. Yeah, I noticed that after it was done. I was like, oh, I reference Georgia a lot. So it's not on purpose, definitely, but I think, with a song like Georgia Girl too, like I wanted to, hint at where I'm from and like have a song about Georgia because I love Georgia, but I didn't want it to be like something about Main Street and something like that, you know what I mean? So Georgia Girl is kind of like the confident part about what I like writing about songs, it's a confident anthem, but it also ties in that I'm from Georgia. So I don't know, I do kind of make it my whole personality. I graduated from the University of Georgia and I grew up in Georgia. I feel like it just has happened. It's not on purpose, but. When we were picking songs, I really just wanted each song to make you feel a different way. And so I don't think any of them, like, you could get the same emotions out of them. I really just wanted a little bit of everything because that's what I love about country music. Like, I listen to the anthems and also the ballads, and I think there's a time and place for every kind of song, And so when we were picking the album, it was kind of just like, Sad Songs for Sad People was the last song to make the record because I had Tennessee Orange as a love song, but there were no other love songs, and I was like, well, that one would fit in, so it's kind of just, I wanted my first record to be basically everything I love about country music and make you feel all kinds of different things. Like Lucky's a party song, Girl in the Mirror is obviously really sad, and like Sleep on My Side is funny, so it's like, it has all the things. My music and taste is influenced by a lot of different artists because I had my mom's taste growing up, which was like country radio, so that was like the mainstream country, and my dad was really into like James Taylor, Eagles, Graham Parsons, all of those kind of people, and so those were from my parents, and then growing up I kind of like developed a love for my own artists that I discovered, and those 3 are Casey Musgraves, Miranda Lambert, and Taylor Swift. So I think that like you'll probably hear hints of those things throughout the album, but I think it's definitely more than 3 people because my dad had me analyzing the lyrics of Desperado when I was like 7 years old, so like at the time didn't care, but now I'm thankful that he made me do that because I do pay attention to lyrics a lot, and I always have, I guess, so. Yeah, so the first song I wrote was called Stay in Memory, and I wrote it to be able to open for Chase Rice at the Georgia Theater. He had given me an opportunity to open for him, like first of 3 on the bill, and his only condition was that I needed an original song because I had only been, playing covers. I hadn't written a song yet, so I had a month to do it, and it was called Stay in Memory. It was actually pretty hooky. It's like Stay in Memory and Don't Come Back, like you and me are on a losing track. Every time you come around, baby, trouble's not far behind. There were some clever parts in the verses too. I don't remember, I'd have to look at my phone, but it was not the worst thing I've ever written. I've probably written worse songs since then. I think it was definitely Hair Salon from my debut EP. That song just it felt very complete when I wrote it, and it was the first song where I was like, okay, maybe I'm okay at doing this, I wasn't sure there for a minute. My parents let me move to Nashville, but they knew that I had a degree, and I knew I wanted to work in music, so I was like, if I can't write songs, then I'll just work at a label or do something involved with music, because I love music. But yeah, that was the first song that I had written and sent to my parents, where I was like, ha, I'm staying and I'm writing songs. So. Well, I think even being able to write with some of the writers that are on this record just kind of, it helped me gain confidence too as a writer, and I think just going forward, it's just gonna keep getting better. And as long as I keep living a life that, I can write songs about, then I think I'll be good to go, but we'll see. I need time to write at this point because I'm touring all the time, but going forward, just making time to write and making sure that these stories that I'm telling are consistently honest, because I think that's what my fans have been loving about the song so far. I play I'm Not Pretty, Lucky, and Girl in the Mirror because they were out. And the same day that I released Girl in the Mirror, I played in Statesboro, Georgia, so it came out at midnight the night before. And there's a video where the whole crowd is singing Girl in the Mirror, and it had not even been out for a day. So it's been really cool, and I'm really glad that people are relating to it the way that they are. So Kristian is my producer, and he's half of Sugarland. And I met him because I was his intern at the University of Georgia when I was in the music business program. I interned for him and his brother, and I was a publishing intern. And I moved to town, and he had checked in after a couple months and was like, how's it going? And I was like, not great, because it was middle of COVID. There weren't writers' rounds. It was just really hard to meet people. And I had asked them to make me some demos, and they graciously did that. And then since he introduced me to my manager, and since then he's been my producer, and he is so amazing. I think he has a lot to do with my sound, and because a lot of my fans point out that it sounds a little bit different than other artists, and it's what Kristian says is a vintage car that can fly, because it reminds you of old country, but there's something in there that is a little bit different. So that's definitely a Kristian thing. His mind is so creative, and he is one of the most gifted people I've ever met, so it's really cool to get to work with him, especially because I grew up a Sugarland fan.